Good evening, everyone. Once again, thank you very much for joining me this evening on another Facebook live talk with all our followers right throughout the country. Thank you very much for all your support, and I hope some of the discussions that we will have tonight will be rewarding and fruitful, and hopefully set some insights on what's happening in our country. In terms of the topic tonight, that is the development of natural resources in the country. But as you can see, I am in our party clothes because I see many of my colleagues in Parliament and their parties are carrying out many conventions and party conventions. I want to assure our PNC supporters that we will be making several announcements very soon so that we can have our convention before the forthcoming national elections in 2022. But in terms of our topic tonight, it is quite a sensitive topic that touches every Papua New Guinean. Every citizen has got an interest in this particular issue about the development of our natural resources, the protection of our land, the fisheries, and of course our forests and all the other resources that we have been blessed by our good Lord. Our forefathers, when they framed the Constitution in 1975, when we adopted the Constitution, the Planning Committee put forward to Parliament at that time, it was highlighted very clearly in the goals and the directives of the mindset of all our founders of our country. And one of the goals and directives of our Constitution is that the natural resources and the environment be protected for our country and for especially our future generation. It has to be conserved and preserved for that, and also that the development of these resources will continue to be for collective benefit, for the benefit of all our people. And not for a select few or select group of people. And this has been the challenge for many successive governments since independence, and that is that trying to maintain a balance between growing a economy that will sustain our population by developing our resources that we have, and also by trying to conserve the resources for future generation, and some of the benefits that we have got to benefit our children in the future. So that has been a challenge for many, many years. And I think one of our first development of the resource projects of a sizable project was the Panguna mine. And we all know the history of Panguna. We have had a mine operating there for many, many decades. And after the civil uprising there, of course, the mine is shut down, and we have got very important lessons to learn from that. That is that they are very important stakeholders, and their concerns needs to be managed well in the development of projects in the country which are present today and, of course, into the future. You can see that even after more than 20 years since the peace agreement was signed, the reopening of Panguna mine remains a challenge. It is not going to be easy. Once the mine is shut down, restarting the mine not only brings about some of the legacy issues that are there, but also new problems that are rising as we move forward. So these are important lessons for any government that is coming in, and for any leader who is leading this sector, particularly the mineral and petroleum sector in our country. Again, the same issues in Oktedi. I know that many of our followers would want to hear about the manner in which our government, when we were in government, were able to manage the smooth transition from arrangements that BHP and of course the then Sustainable were put in place that was managing the project. But we did not get the maximum benefits to the nation as a result of that arrangement, and the subsequent takeover by the state and of course the provincial government and the landowners of Western Province. I will come to that as we move along. And then the challenges that we have in the other operating mines like Lear and Ramu, and of course Pogra, which has been a much discussed issue over the past few years now, since the closure of the mine and the effects that it has on the economy and of course jobs and small business in the country. But let me start by saying that when we decided to take Oktedi over when we were in government, it was not by choice. It was by circumstances that were there at that time. When the then chairman of Oktedi commissioned an independent study, which was Professor Rosdano, and of course he and that study recommended that the mine be shut down. But when that report was presented to our government, and our government saw the report, it did not take into account the effect that the closure will have on the economy and the well-being of the country. So I tried to negotiate their exit because they did not want to continue to operate the mine, especially the other smaller partner, a Canadian-based company, which wanted to exit the arrangements with Sustainable, and of course Sustainable's current arrangements, which are still issues that we need to resolve, are resolved by any government. Both the provincial government and the national government have to take ownership of that issue. We have close to, I think, 2 billion kina sitting there, which is rightfully now the asset of the people of Western Province and the people of Papua New Guinea. But it is now managed by foreigners. We have lost control of that because the arrangements done prior to this government or our government or Somalia's government previously have led to a situation where Papua New Guinea has lost control of this asset. And I think that time will come at some stage in the future that hard discussions need to take place without emotions and finger pointing of blame, so that this asset can be returned to the rightful owners. Those are the landowners, the people of Western Province, and the people of Papua New Guinea. And both the state and the leaders of these provinces and the landowners have a huge obligation to the nation and our people in resolving this issue. Apart from that, when we took over the mine, we did not shut down the mine. We knew that shutting down the mine will have a huge impact on the jobs that of Papua New Guineans who were working there. There were close to over 2,500 plus Papua New Guineans working directly at the mine at that time. And of course, many of them have been working for on an average, over 20 years by each of those employees in Oktedi. So we decided to take a cautious approach, an approach in which would allow the continuity of the operation of the mine, and at the same time we will try and get the transfers done in a smooth manner as possible. As many of you will recall, there were a lot of publicity around it at that time about government forcing itself to go and take over the mine. That was never the case, but of course sometimes politics paints a picture of something that we all think it's true, but it is never the case. But at that instance, Sustainable was a bit disappointed with the government, especially when we had an independent study to value the mine and the mine agreements and the lease agreements that expired clearly state that the takeover by government should be at the residual value, at the value of which was written down, and that was determined to be about $200 million US, and the government decided that that is a payment that was acceptable. We provisioned that when we passed the legislation on the floor of Parliament, saying that that money will still go to Sustainable, but that money will still belong to the people of Western Province and of course people of Papua New Guinea. But although the state, to make sure that it was commercially transaction taking place and to complete the transaction, we decided to pay a residual value which was expected of the state. At the same time, we wanted to have a clean start So we ensure that all the entitlements for all the employees who were employed by the previous Octedi management and the company were fully paid to all the entitlements. And we made a one-off cash payment for all the entitlements on the day when we took over the mine. And then we re-employed almost all the employees to come back. Those of them who wanted to voluntarily resign or to retire or be retrenched, those were retrenched in an orderly manner. That is why today you have an operating mine, which is a world-class mine, managed quite well, and continues to pay dividends and continues to be profitable to Papua New Guinea, and continues to play a very important role. This is a mine now we own 100% of the mine, and it's got a great balance sheet value for the people of Papua New Guinea. So you already have a kickstart on trying to own the resources in the country. So you have an asset there which is valuable to that agenda that we all aspire to have. And I think that when we take on the next negotiations that are coming through, I know some of them are going through at the moment. Some have been frustrated over the last two years, just to end up with the same agreements that our government agreed with the developers. We have wasted 2.5 years. 2.5 years of people not being able to get jobs, especially those people who are coming off the PNG LNG project, were not able to continue the employment program, especially Papua New Guineans. PNG LNG employed them over 20,000 people. Now I think it's less than 2,000 or 3,000 people, Papua New Guineans, are working directly with the PNG LNG projects. That's the approximate number of people that I was told at that time will continue to employ permanent employment with the project. But the opportunity that we have missed for Papua New Guineans to continue. Now, when we negotiated with Total, we negotiated a better outcome, knowing very well the frustrations that we have had over the previous experiences. For example, issues that we have had in Panguna, the issues that we have had in Octedi, the issues that we were having in Pogra, the issues that we were continuing to have in Lir. Those were the examples, and of course Ramuniko. Those issues made us think about the structure in which we were trying to do a commercial deal with Total, which was of very fair value to PNG. One of our biggest challenges is that our legislation that was framed gives us opportunity to have back-in rights into some of these projects. Meaning that if they discover some big mine or big oil field or petroleum field or gas field, Papua New Guineans and Papua New Guinean government has got a first right of refusal to whether to participate in the development of that project or not. In the mining, I understand it's up to 30% of the back-end rights, and in the petroleum, I think it's up to 22.5% of the back-end rights that we have. So that has been exercised on few occasions, but in all, we've seen a decline in the participation because one, it takes a lot of money to pay for that equity. The back-end rights is not free. Only a small portion, I think it's about 2% or so, is free for the landowners and the provincial governments. But the rest, the state has to pay for it. And to pay for it, we don't have the money, so we start borrowing. And this is where we get caught in the trap of borrowing these large sums of money. Because it's large sums of money, we engage a lot of people, experts in banking and finance, accountants, lawyers, more and more professionals who seem to be able to handle these transactions are engaged by many governments since 1975. Even prior to that, I think the Australian government did a deal for us in Panguna when they were the colonial administrators in the country. So once we put all our efforts and things into trying to secure the shareholding, thinking that it'll bring us big benefits, it is now understood. We experience where the benefits are being deferred because we have to repay the loans at the first place. So it takes up to 10 years or so before we even see the real benefits coming into many of, on average, about 10 years, before we see the real benefits coming into our people and our economy. Because most of the big projects, they have just a rule. They normally put 30% equity and they borrow up to 70%, and that 70% must be paid by the project over time to all the international banks around the world. So these transactions are not done by one or two people. It is done by many, many people, and every documentation is cross-examined by every person so that it is transparent and clear. So once that is done, the funding is available, the project goes ahead. So PNG government has been falling into this trap all the time, where we are borrowing large sums of money and we are continuously paying, and our people get frustrated because they don't see the benefits coming up. And that is because of the way our legislation has been framed. I know there's a new draft legislation being circulated now, and there's some discussions going on. But when we negotiated projects like Papua LNG, we understood that very well. So that is why we try to get more benefits coming out from day one. When the first export goes out, we wanted the benefits to come to our people and our country. So we increased the rate of royalty, meaning that when the royalty was now locked at 2%, we increased it up to 3%, where the value of the export at 3% the cash comes directly to our people. Same thing with in the negotiations that we were doing with Wafi Golpu. Most of these developers agreed to increase certain level of free carry and certain level of royalty, despite the fact that the legislation was at minimum amounts. That was up to 2%. They were happy to go up beyond that. So some of these negotiations need to be done very, very carefully. The legislative changes that are coming through, it's okay. But we don't have to embarrass ourselves. Like the Papua LNG, there was a big song and dance that they will change and take all the equity back, only to come to the same agreements that we signed 2.5 years ago. And last session of Parliament, to the great embarrassment of our country and our government, they went and changed the legislation to protect that particular project from any changes in the new Mining and Petroleum Act and the changes that these particular legislations will bring forward in the future. So they have given that guarantee to keep that outside of those new changes. So if the new changes have got really big changes, that cannot apply to PNG LNG or Papua LNG. So these are things that we should avoid. We should not be negotiating one-on-one about these kind of big changes where we can capture it in the legislation and the rule applies to everybody, so that it is fair, it is understood by every investor coming into the country that these are the rules that you can play with. These are the rules that you are able to comply with. And I think it is time that the government should sit down with the industry, the Petroleum and Mining Council, and agree to the terms of the legislative proposals that they are putting forward, whether it is free carry that they want to increase, or the royalties, or the development levy, or the benefits, local participation that is going to come through. These are issues that needs to be bedded down and agreed to so that it is fair and the rules are clearly understood. The last thing we want to do is to borrow more and more to participate in this, which has been detrimental to Papua New Guinea, because of course some of these clever bankers and clever financiers and clever lawyers and clever accountants continue to frustrate and take advantage of our lack of experience in participating in these big deals. Yes, we've got some very smart people in the industry and in our country, but they don't have the experience of negotiating big projects like many other countries have done and their people have done in the past. Our people are still learning the nitty-gritties of trying to negotiate, and sometimes our officials pretend to know that yes, this is the best deal for us. And then, of course, we trust our officials, and we as leaders accept what is presented, thinking that that is the best deal. But experience has now shown that some of the deals that we have done could have been done a little bit better. That includes some of the deals that our government has done. No government has done a perfect deal that is going to bring about all this prosperity that we've been all talking about. But we can maximize our benefit by being smarter and learning from the experience that we have had. We should never have shut down Porgera. Porgera, the mining lease and mining terms of the agreement has come to an end. The government had a much stronger position to go in there in the negotiation process. What it should have happened is allow the mine to continue running, especially when the prices of gold were at about $2,000 US per ounce. Nobody in their right mind anywhere globally shuts down an operating mine producing gold at that kind of prices, because the next time that we are going to get $2,000 per ounce, it might be quite a long time away. So it was wrong to do that, and wrong to put thousands and thousands of Papua New Guineans out of job. You have to appreciate many of these people who are working for their bread and butter. Many of them do not have enough to do a long-term saving for being out of a job and being able to get a new job and or transition between jobs. So we don't, our saving culture is very limited because of the social demands that we have as Papua New Guineans, whether it be helping school fees or whether ASCRI or compensation. That's a situation where we all have to participate. That is a way of life in our country. We cannot avoid it. And many of these people who have been displaced and now not been able to find jobs are really suffering out there. Their loans that they've got to buy homes for themselves have been repossessed. Their kids are not able to go to school. Their car leases have been repossessed. This is a specialist area. There's no new mines operating in the country, so there's no new jobs. Apart from that, all the subcontractors and major contractors, we employ thousands and thousands of Papua New Guineans. So the ripple effect of a decision that someone just wakes up one morning and says that I will do this without proper thinking through such an issue has got big repercussions to our society and, of course, individually and to the country as well. So we need to take stock of what has happened and the negotiations that they are doing. The mining minister and the officials need to be very clear and precise. And the Prime Minister does not necessarily need to make knee-jerk announcements so often. Those are misleading and undermines the work of the department and the minister concerned. They must be allowed to do their job, and when they come and brief him and the cabinet, that's when you make a firm decision that you can rely on the good advice that these technical people will give you. If you don't like the advice that they're giving you, it is your decision to reject it, and that's how the process operates in cabinet and, of course, in the bureaucracy. This is not happening. As a result, there's different negotiations going on. I'm very concerned about the negotiations going on Wafi Golpu. These negotiations is been stalled for unnecessarily for now well over 2.5 years. This is another mine that's supposed to be now in operation and in construction, providing thousands and thousands of jobs. But it seems to me that the provincial government under the governor of Morobe is doing his own negotiations. The mining department, the technical people are doing their own negotiations, and of course the office of the Prime Minister and his people are doing their own negotiations. So there is no coordinated effort in trying to establish a common position before they go to the negotiation table with the developer. Instead, everybody is providing a wish list. Well, wish lists are wish lists. That's why they call it wish list. So I don't know where we will end up, but common sense should prevail. The landowners, from what I gather, are very willing to participate in any of the discussions that will enable them to develop this mine. And the basic negotiations that we have done, they set out the framework. Now they need to build on it to try and get a better outcome for Papua New Guinea. And I think the developers are fair. They've already operated, and Newcrest is already operating, Harmony is already operating in Papua New Guinea. They are not new investors into PNG. They know the culture, they know the expectations of our people. They need to sit down, the government needs to sit down and work with these people so that we can be able to try and make this project get off the ground. The economy is continuing to decline. It will continue to decline well into 2022 by the time we go to the elections. There will be not many new jobs, no new foreign investment. This sad story will continue. Of course, we'll continue to make big announcements. We recently saw the announcements by the Prime Minister about the 133 million billion US dollar investments that were supposed to be happening over the last 2 years. That includes Papua LNG, Wafi Gold Pool, the Pasca projects, Frida, and everything else that he listed down and made a huge announcement. None of these projects have come to fruition. And as a result of that, we are now in the situation where we are today. So we need to get our head together. We need to have a clear legislative framework that we need to put to the industry. Industry is a major player in this industry. Just a similar thing with fisheries, forestry. You need to engage with these people. You cannot operate the sector by yourself as government. Governments are not best operators of business. We all understand that. We need to have the industry fully participate. Industry is only looking after themselves. We all understand that. And our job as government is to look after our people's interests. That is why we need to keep on putting a strong position, but not unreasonable position where it kills the industry. And this is where we need to have a balance that is a win-win situation for everyone, but most importantly, jobs, 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 and businesses for our people. And that's the only way this economy will rebound and start the growth that we will require. Finally, before I take some questions, I just want to talk about UBS. As many of you know, this oil search and UBS saga has been going on for a while. And I will do a table as I did in the economic data that I presented in my last talk. After the talk, I presented a table format which give a clear summary and explanation of what I was saying. I will do that after this live talk, and then I will be presenting over the next few days a summary of the events that has taken place that has led us to where we are today. Now, oil search saga started in the 1990s, when the then government established what they call Origin Minerals. Origin Minerals was a state-owned company. I think one of the first managing directors was Sir Charles Lapani, who was a very distinguished Papua New Guinean, former High Commissioner to Australia, former one of the first secretaries of planning, very senior civil servant of our country. He led that organization, and then after 10 years or so of operation in 2000, I believe, when under the Marotta government, he was replaced by Kaupa, John Kaupa, who was then the managing director for Origin Minerals. And Oil Search has been operating as an exploration company in PNG since the early 1900s, merely trying to find oil or gas all around Papua New Guinea, drilling and going out in the bush. And they've been looking for prospects like that for many, many years. They have not been a oil or gas development company. They have never traded in marketing and selling of oil and gas around the world, but merely an exploration company. At that time, Peter Bolton and Gary Aupi, who later joined Oil Search, were managing and running that company. On the other hand, we had Origin Minerals, which was owned only by 100% by PNG, Papua New Guinea government. At that time, all our interests in the oil fields in Kutubu, Moran, Jua, Hides, and all those areas in the Southern Islands and Hela provinces. They were all in those shares on behalf of the state. I believe at the time they did not have any major loans in that balance sheet. It was a well-run company, had a strong balance sheet, strong cash flow. And for some strange reason, there was thinking that Origin Minerals should buy oil seats, should take over oil seats. That was promoted around the Morata government in 1999 to 2002. So around 2000, that particular idea was mooted. And of course, the transaction was done in 2001, where Origin was, instead of Origin Minerals buying oil seats ended up taking over Origin Minerals. When the merger was supposed to take place, it was to be Origin Minerals 51% and oil seats 49%. Instead, it was the other way around. I believe from the figures that were given to me, oil seats, an exploration company with no cash flow, no solid assets except the shareholders' contribution from the stock exchange, took over a very strong, balanced, strong company for some strange reason, ended up PNG government owning 14%. The rest was owned by the shareholders of oil seats. That was the merged company under oil seats. That was in 2001. And of course, then they had the rights to Juha and of course Hajj and Kutubu and Moran and all these oil fields. So now it's from 1990 to 2021 now, which is probably over 30 plus years. Oil seats has enjoyed a very good deal that they have made with the government in 2000. They have recovered all their investments. They have traded quite well as a Papua New Guinea listed company. Even though Papua New Guineans did not own majority of the shares, it was treated and promoted as Papua New Guinean company, which was in fact not quite true. And so successive governments, including ours, have been supporting oil seats because we're thinking that this is a Papua New Guinea company. Their head office is based in PNG. They employ thousands of Papua New Guineans. They do very good community service obligation works. They work with the community quite well. They manage the landowner issues quite well. So many governments, including ours, have been helping and supporting them over time. Now comes in 2008 and 9, where negotiations about the PNG LNG projects comes through. Of course, oil seats being a partner with ExxonMobil and Santos, they have now decided that they will participate in the development of the PNG LNG projects. And PNG government, under the development agreements and obligations under Petroleum Act, at the right of participation. But for some strange reason, instead of us getting 22.5% of our interest in that new field, we were diluted down to even further down to 19.5%, 19.4%, somewhere there. So we lost 3% or so shares somewhere along the way. Compounded to that, we had to borrow money to pay for the shares in the PNG LNG projects. IPBC, which was a state-owned holding company at that time, led the negotiations, led the discussions for the development of this project with oil sets, with ExxonMobil, and with Santos. While these agreements were being done, one must remember, oil sets was promoting, prior to this project, oil sets was promoting the failed pipeline to Queensland. They were trying to transport the gas all the way down to Queensland, to Mackay or somewhere, and they were promoting it, wasted millions and millions of kina and came to nothing. Now they are promoting the PNG LNG gas. So in order for PNG government and PNG to fund the shares, the then government decided to take the loan from the Arabs in IPIC. IPIC is a sovereign wealth fund owned by the United Arab Emirates. Instead of going to the market, competitive market, IPIC was introduced to the government by oil search, and Goldman Sachs were the partners. IPBC held the shares of PNG LNG, borrowed the money. At the same time, they mortgaged all the shares, 100% of the shares that we held in oil search. Remember that at oil search we never had any shares in origin, we never had loans. The shares we held, we never had any loans against it. First time we have been loans just to participate in the PNG LNG project. Instead of just mortgaging the value of the oil search shares to the IPIC, the Arabs, we also mortgaged every other asset, all the planes at the New Guinea, all the telecom, the government then mortgaged the telecom assets, PNG power assets, PNG ports assets, PNG water assets, all the little assets and investments that the state had. We needed to get permission from the United Arab Emirates in order for us to either sell or trade or operate all this and make major decisions affecting these state-owned entities. So we gave him another almost 6 or 7 billion kina worth of assets on top of the oil search shares that was almost valued at 1.1 or 1.2 billion Australian dollars at that time. We were over protection of that loan. We mortgaged everything at 5% per annum for 5 years, at a fixed fee and to be managed by Goldman Sachs. For some strange reason, halfway through the loan, Goldman Sachs and of course IPBC converted an Australian dollar into US. Nobody can explain to this that why they converted the entire Australian dollar amount to US. And we lost, in that transaction, we lost about $300+ million because of the exchange losses that we generated because of the value declines in those currencies. So again, PNG lost value in that. But in March 2014 was the due date for us to repay the Arabs. And the conditions of the agreement was that on that day, we must have at least 1.2 billion Australian dollars to repay the Arabs, or Arabs will have a choice. And the decision was whether to ask us to repay the loan or they'll keep the shares. And they did not make any indication on which decision they were going to do. So PNG government has no choice, but we started to enter into negotiations with 4 or 5 various banks around the world, an authorized treasury, to put a team of leading agencies of government, IPBC at that time, or now KCH, Bank of Papua New Guinea, all our lawyers, all the relevant agencies of government, NEC, put a team together and tell them, you go and negotiate with each one of those. I don't believe any political leader has ever met or discussed with any of those bankers, especially the then treasurers, or myself, or Minister for State-Owned Enterprises. But our officials negotiated. They recruited the accountants, the lawyers, economic advisors, modelers, many people to try and put this deal together for us. But we started in 2012 knowing very well that we will have to repay the loan. If the Arabs called and said, now it's time for you to repay the loan, and if we did not have the money, our credibility will be zero around the international banking community and economic community, if we were not able to pay that loan. So PNG government had no choice but to negotiate and get the money ready for us to repay that loan. A day or two before the loan was due, we got notice that they are going to, 1 day or two before, that day of due on, I think it was 14th of March or 7th of March, somewhere there, of 2014. Oil Search informed us. I did not receive any letter in writing from anybody, but a word from Oil Search to us saying that Arabs have decided to keep the shares, and that's it. And we were supposed to buy back those shares at an agreed price. Agreed 5 years earlier, at $8.50 or per share for US, pay one share, Australian dollars per one share. Of course, I was disappointed because the value of the oil fields and the value of the investments and the sacrifices we've done for 30 years now comes to this, where we have now lost something that we all valuable for the participation of our people in our country. So I got our officials to talk to oil sets and everyone to see whether we can how can we be able to secure that. And leading to that, oil sets and the board of directors and the shareholders, major shareholders, said we need Papua New Guinea government to be still the shareholder. We will sell you the same amount of shares for the same price that you were going to give to the Arabs. And of course, at that time, I was already not in a very good mood of negotiations with these people who have led us down this path. And it has cost us millions of kina to employ all these lawyers and modelers, and every man and his dog that needs to be recruited was recruited to give us advice. And that cost money to the state and our people. So I decided that no, oil sets must sell it to us at a discount. And I told our secretary who was leading our negotiations to go there and tell them in no uncertain terms that they must give us a discount because they have led us to this situation where we are in. It was not by choice, and it was to their interest and to protecting their interest and not protecting ours. Eventually, after a few days of negotiation, the price was agreed down. They were going to give 30 cents, almost a kina, discount per share. Instead of paying $8.50, we paid $8.20. At that time, the oil prices were at around, hovering around 80, 90 to 100 US dollars per barrel. So the transaction was expected to be a good transaction. And of course, a few years later, the prices collapsed down to $27 from 100 US dollars to $27. And when you have that reduction of your revenue and in that oil shares that you were holding, of course, you suffer a loss. And this is what the inquiry is now looking for, and I'm very pleased that they're going through it. I'm very disappointed also that for the first time in the history of our country, confidential cabinet information and discussions have been displayed by various leaders and commentators out there. You will never see this happening in Australia. You will never see this happening in England. You will never see that happening in Canada or all the other countries that have a Westminster style of government. It is only after 30 or 40 years they release the discussions in cabinet publicly for public to know, because this is about national security and protection of national interests. If everybody knew what we were discussing and what we're planning to do for our country, we will never succeed in anything. Every country in this world protects their national interest. That includes our development partners and everybody who's out there. Whether they be from north or south or east or west, that is the bottom line. And Papua New Guineans, and especially our leaders and our top bureaucrats, need to understand that we work for the people of our country. We don't work for anyone else. And getting the best deal for our people is the situation that we're in. Now, UBS Loan is, of course, now we will see the outcomes of that coming through. It has been politicized unnecessarily, but I'm hoping that I'm sure that the Commission will produce a very decent report and factual report. And of course, I was one of the first ones to stand up and welcome in that inquiry. What has happened, but I want to say this. Now we see oil sets merging with Santos, two of the biggest shareholders in our PNG LNG project. So our government has gone to sleep. They have not spoken out once about this transaction, which is going to have enormous impact and ramifications on our economy and, of course, our own shareholding in that project. Why I say this, that after the merger, the merged company will be the biggest shareholder in this project. It will be bigger than ExxonMobil. It will be bigger than the PNG government. And of course, when you have a bigger shareholding, you have a bigger say as well. So I think it's important to understand that our government needs to now engage with oil sets. They cannot just keep silent. And my urging to our government is this: stop playing party politics, sit down with these corporate leaders, and negotiate an outcome whereby Papua New Guinea must take over the oil fields of Kutubu, Angore, Jua, Ides at 1 Kina. They have already received enough money from their investments. They have recovered their initial investments, oil sets especially. Many of the losses that we have suffered is because oil sets introduced us to IPIC. Oil sets introduced us to Goldman Sachs in 2009. Oil sets introduced us to UBS, only because oil sets was protecting its own interests, whereas we thought that we were working together as partners for the development and interest of our people. Unfortunately, now we know where we are, but right now our government's number one priority, most of the oil fields and the gas fields in these particular licenses have been depleted now to a bare minimum. We have shown the capability of managing Oktedi ourselves, and I'm certain that we have got enough experience to manage the oil fields of Kutubu, Juha. And if this government does not do it, I can assure you that that will be one of our first priorities when we come in 2022. If we have a chance of forming government, we must create a national wealth base for our country. These oil fields, since Chevron, and then oil sets to now, it'll be taken over by Santos if we are not careful. These people have now more than 4 or 5 or 6 times, probably 10 times. The value of their investments have been recovered fully. It is time for oil sets before the merger takes place. Before the merger takes place, I understand the merger will take place within the weeks. Our government needs to protect the interest of our country, and that is that oil sets must transfer the shares, this was oil fields, for 1 kina, no more. And that way we can be able to make it work and recoup some of the funds that we have. Papua New Guineans must also understand that Kumul Petroleum that we have set up, it is not a company that we want it to go into exploration. It is not a company we want it to invest in monuments. It's not a company that we want them to do community service obligations, community projects. They are not a development company. They are just an all-in company. All in the shares for the people of Papua New Guinea, not wasting the money that is coming through. And this is what seems to be happening at present. The government needs to stop this rot. This has to stop now before it becomes a habit and before it becomes too late. I'm happy to take on a few questions now, and I think I have said enough. I've almost been speaking for 50 minutes, so I'm sorry that I have taken much of the time, but I have taken note of all your questions, and I will sit down over the next few days as time permits, and I'll answer to each and every one of your questions. But let me say this. I hear that one of the first is, what is your view on Australian billionaire Andrew Forrest iron projects in Papua New Guinea? Is he a good partner? Red carpet rollout for him. Why? Well, I have never met Andrew Forrest, so but from what I read, I hear that he's doing some good work around the areas that he operates in. He works closely with the indigenous people and so forth. And some of the projects that he is pursuing in this country are fairly substantial and fairly large investments. So I have not seen the finer details of that, but from a business point of view, I understand that he is a reputable businessman and well regarded in Australia. And I want to say this. Just like oil sets who have taken us for a ride, while we are telling oil sets to correct their mistakes, I also want to say the same to UBS. We have agreed to a fee structure for their interest on their loan. If there's more money that they've made, they must return it to PNG. Same thing with Goldman Sachs. We need to go down that path and start investigating these people. They've been agreed on a fee structure. I understand that they've made more money on some of the transactions that they have been managing on behalf of PNG government. and those monies must be honestly returned to Papua New Guinea government. So these are big international companies with big hunger for things. So we need to be careful on how we operate. And rolling out the red carpets, all right. We have recently rolled out red carpets for Chinese billionaire who's supposed to be investing billions of kina. The governor from Morobe is about a year or so ago, or 6 months or so, announced 100 billion kina project. I've been to Leh a few times, but I haven't seen one yet. The governor for Eastern Islands has announced a 40 billion kina project. I've been to Eastern Islands. In fact, I'm going to Eastern Islands tomorrow, so I intend to go and see the projects that he is developing up there. But this kind of cargo cult thinking, Papua New Guineans need to get it out of their mind. There's no easy and fast way to enjoy prosperity. We must work hard, wake up early in the morning, go to work, commit. That by hard work, sheer hard work, you will get there. And every successful person in this world, all you need to do is look behind their story of who they are, and you will find that they've come through hardships to be where they are, and they have never done it very easily. So don't think that all these people coming here announcing all these big projects are going to give us a golden opportunity to become rich and famous tomorrow. It'll take years, it'll take hard work, and we will work together. I've got a question from Vanessa, who's asking, what approach will you take with Pogora if you become PM again and the draft legislation itself? We have had a good look, and we got some very good experience people in the opposition, particularly David Stephen, who's a former Attorney General, one of our best legal minds in Papua New Guinea. He's had a good read at the legislation. We are going through that now, and we will make our views known when the debates take place. But we will support where it is beneficial and fair for Papua New Guineans. But we must remember this. When we establish legislation such as, we must not put legislation that will drive off investment. We have resources, yes, but we need investment to develop it. And investors are not here as charity. They are here to also make a return on their investment. All we want to do is have a fair share for all parties that are developing these resources. So I want to assure Vanessa that when we get to Pogora, we will talk to the developer and all the parties, that we will park the legacy issues onto a side, get the money to start operating, and the returns and the profits that we make from the mine, we park it on the side until we resolve the nagging issues that are there. That includes equity, environmental damage, landowner benefits, free carry, royalties, development levy. I think we need to have a clear, focused set of objectives and goals that we want to achieve during the negotiations, and we go and negotiate with them. One has to remember that Barrick is run by a South African who is an experienced miner, one of the big shareholders of Barrick, and he's got very huge experience in this kind of negotiations and can be able to handle pressure situations like this. So our leaders need to be very careful on what they say and do, and not giving away all the negotiations advantage that you have just because you need to be in media and please everybody. You have to get it done and walk it across the line and then make the announcements. Louis asks, when Pogora, Wafi, Papua LNG coming online, what do you think? Well, I can tell you quite confidently, Louis, that Pogora, Wafi, and Papua LNG will not come online this year. So we can forget about this year. They will wait until after 2022. If you were investing in such a big project and invest in large sums of money like that, you don't want to invest in an uncertain environment. You want to invest in a confident, stable environment where leaders and departments and senior bureaucrats are saying things that are lawfully right, and when they negotiate, that is the negotiation that they settle on. If we continue to change the terms of the negotiations, nobody will kickstart this project. So that's the challenge we all have. And Daryl asks, can we build a gold refinery in PNG? Well, there is nothing stopping us from building a gold refinery. If we stop taking dividends from Oktedi, and if Oktedi is a business modeling case where a gold refinery is feasible in Papua New Guinea, I see no reason why they cannot invest in that. So yes, there is a good potential for that. Alois asks, what is your position on US Manus Naval Base? Do you trust the government is doing the best for Manus people to make sure they are socially and economically benefit? The Manus Naval Base in US, of course, will bring some benefit to Manus in terms of development of the infrastructure, hospitals and schools. That is what we experienced during the hosting of the asylum seekers on Manus. Unfortunately, the governor and myself saw the issues very differently. He was just for the sake of shutting down the asylum seeking center. He went and wanted to shut it down, whereas I wanted a staged process where the Australian development partners will continue to invest in our hospital, which they did, invest in our market, which they did, invest in our roads, which they did. I think they employed close to 3,000 people. I think Manus population is about 20,000 people, and 3,000 people were earning fortnight, day in, day out. Today, there's nothing. The business has gone back to where it was. Everything has gone back to where it was because of leadership who is not visionary in what they want to do. Manus has got a very big challenges ahead of it. It has got resources like fisheries, tourism, and a little bit of forestry going on there. But forestry should be discouraged. It's just going to destroy the environment there. But fisheries and of course tourism is something that you need to develop. We have during our time arranged the ADB funded project, which is now the Lombrum Airport, which I believe it's almost completed, the construction of that. That can now take on big planes. And if I were the governor of the province, I would be encouraging direct flights from Brisbane or all the other places to come and land directly there. Even if it's F-100, to come and land there to boost the tourism and offer tourism as a way of life for and income opportunities for our people, and developing small-scale fisheries. If we bring a tuna canning fishery, or if we bring a large-scale fisheries, only the large company will benefit. It's about making sure that the local fishermen also participates in that industry there. The fisheries department and the fisheries authority, I was very disappointed to see the front page of Post Courier having big fireworks down at the Ella Beach APEC House, costing thousands and thousands of kina, I would say a few hundreds of thousands of kina, just for the sake and entertainment of 100 or 200 people who were attending there, not for the public. Such wastage is unnecessary. They should be investing in places like Manus to develop local small-scale fisheries industry there. The small jetties scheme that we introduced when we were in government, they should expand it right across all the islands and all the smaller communities around Manus, down towards western part of Manus and further up towards Woogaloo and so forth. But I can assure my friends in Manus, I will be there very soon. We can talk more on what sort of opportunities that we can do for Manus. Well, I think we are coming to an end. We've got 2 more minutes, but I'll try and just continue on for a few more minutes after that. Iran, Melma said, how will you improve the effectiveness of public servants when you are next PM? Well, it'll take some time now. You know that the public service machinery is now not functioning at all. Today, there's something going on viral about the appointment at Telecom. I mean, you don't necessarily have to go to court to get a court order for yourself to be reinstated and forcing your way into these kind of positions. You have to earn it by merit. You have to be, as for the case of politicians, you have to be mandated by the people and mandated by Parliament. you just don't go and force yourself because you think that you are the right person for it. And these kind of things where now the one-talk system and tribalism and who you know is the basis on which public servants gets appointed. I'm sorry, it has now collapsed to a situation where most of the departmental heads and most of the people are not turning up for work. Many who do turn up for work are now becoming briefcase carriers for ministers. Ministers are now going down there approving people to write checks here and write checks there, and in fact approving the list for payments within the department. This is unheard of. It needs a total cleanup, and I can assure you that first things first, once we establish a good government, whether it's PNC or anyone else, we will make sure that we put up a public notice advising those who occupy these positions that if you think that you rightfully do not deserve to be there, please leave your resignation on the table and walk out. We want to get qualified people to come in and operate some of these institutions. And sometimes if it means that we bring people from outside, people from Tonga and Fiji and even Samoa and all these places now, public servants are taking positions in international organizations because they have got good experience, good discipline, and are able to perform the job that they have been tasked to do, not following the minister around, a politician around, and becoming a personal assistant to the minister. What is your opinion on PNG transition from an extractive-based renewables-based economy, example mining, to a renewable energy? Perhaps talk about the need to start up at PPL and develop renewables. Well, you know that many of the landowner companies are now investing in the energy sector. But the problem here is this. We have got hydro schemes around the world that has been funded by World Bank, which are producing energy at almost like 1 cent per kilowatt hour. At the same time, some of the new energy projects that we are going through are charging up to 25 cents per kilowatt hour, which is, affordability is not there, but they want the state to guarantee it, whether that energy has been used or not. The state cannot continue to guarantee these things and pay for these things when it's going broke. When the actual cost that has been produced by hydros that were established by, like Rona, and you look at Pounder in in Southern Islands, down at Oro Province, down in West New Britain, and all these hydros that has been set up now, capacity is there. It needs maintenance to increase the production of energy, which in turn will be produced at a very cheap rate. So I said 1 to 2 cents per US cents per kilowatt hour, which the savings can be passed on to the consumer. These are the middlemen who are making the money and making the prices of power so high. Families can't afford it, businesses can't afford it, and the state cannot continue to guarantee these people who are ineffective, not able to, unreliable, they are not reliable, unable to provide the service that we demand as a growing economy, and the list goes on. So, as you know, that is the challenge that we have. One last question. I'm sorry that I've gone beyond it, 3 minutes past 9, but it doesn't matter. Nobody's timing us, so we can at least spend a bit more time with us. Have you had the vaccine evidence, and will you mandate everyone get the COVID jab? Mandating everyone in this country is a free country, so it's entirely up to each individual to decide for him or herself. But you cannot force it onto people. Some people have got serious medical problems, and to ensure that their lives are protected and so forth, the need for vaccination is there. If they want to get it, they must be allowed to get it, and it should not be mandatory. I think that is the case in the United States, the biggest democracy in the world. Us being probably one of the smallest democracies in the world, we can only learn from the examples that these people set. But all in all, thank you very much. Good night. We will talk to you very, very soon.